Carl Azuz for CNN Student News. We're starting today with a report on a major earthquake that struck southern Asia yesterday. Its epicenter, the point directly above the quake, was in northeastern Afghanistan. The force was felt in neighboring Pakistan and Tajikistan, as well as 2 countries over in India. Its magnitude was 7.5, capable of catastrophic damage. But geologists say because its epicenter was so deep, more than 130 miles below the surface, its effects were limited. Still, Afghan officials say more than 4,000 houses were severely damaged or destroyed, and more than 200 people, mostly in Pakistan, were confirmed dead when we produced this show. The quake hit in a rural mountainous area. Some affected villages are hard for rescuers to reach. They also don't have good infrastructure like sturdy bridges or reliable communication systems, so that's another challenge. This quake was only slightly less powerful than one that struck nearby Kashmir in 2005, but that one's epicenter was shallow and it killed more than 70,000 people. This week, local and government law enforcement officials from across the U.S. are meeting in Chicago, Illinois. One issue they're discussing: a surge in violent crime in some cities, with an increased number of murders in Dallas, Texas, Miami, Florida, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Cleveland, Ohio. Another issue for officials at the meeting, what some are calling the Ferguson effect. It follows a controversial incident in Ferguson, Missouri last year when a white police officer killed an 18-year-old black man.
FBI Director Jim Comey says that at least part of the reason why there's a surge in crime in some cities around the country could be because some officers are holding back. Now, this is called the Ferguson effect because increased scrutiny on police tactics is causing some officers to be reluctant to arrest suspects. Now, he spoke at the University of Chicago on Friday, and he tackled these issues about race and the effect on police.
Far more people are being killed in some of America's cities than in many years. And let's be clear, far more people of color are being killed in American cities this year. And it's not the cops doing the killing.
Now, we should note that not all police chiefs believe that their officers are holding back. There are some that believe the rise in crime could be explained by the rise of synthetic drugs on the streets. Comey is speaking to a convention of police chiefs in Chicago, and we'll hear more about what he has to say. Evan Perez, CNN, Chicago.
Well, unless you're a vegetarian, you might not like this. The World Health Organization, it's an agency of the United Nations, says eating processed meat causes cancer. By processed, the group means any type of meat that's salted, cured, or smoked to give it more flavor or preserve its shelf life. So think sausages, ham, and hot dogs. But the agency also says that unprocessed red meat, like steak, is probably cancer-causing. The risk is relatively low if you eat small amounts of meat. But if someone eats 2 slices of ham a day, for example, the WHO says his cancer risk goes up by 18%. The North American meat industry responded by saying that numerous studies show no correlation between meat and cancer, and that the nutrients in meat, quote, far outweigh any theoretical hazard. The Pacific Northwest gets the first nod in today's Call of the Roll. We're taking you to Mount Vernon, Washington. It's there that the Cougars are stalking CNN Student News. They're at Conway School District. To the East Coast, Mount Pleasant Middle School is next. It's in Livingston, New Jersey, the home of the Pumas. And in the capital of Ukraine, hello to Kiev International School, and thank you for watching in Kiev. A U.S. medical expert suggests that 2015 could be one of the worst years for deaths in high school football. Part of the reason is sheer numbers. About 100,000 people play in the NFL, semi-pro leagues, and college combined. In high school, there are more than 1 million players. Experts say changes over the last 10 years have made high school sports safer, but that students' brains are naturally more susceptible to injuries because they're still developing. And many teens will insist on playing despite having symptoms of a concussion. Still, brain injuries are not the leading cause of death in high school football.
Sadly, about the same number of high school football players continue to die each year. 17-year-old Andre Smith is the latest player to pass away from an on-field injury. He was hit on the last play of the game Thursday night. Now, Smith walked to the sideline before collapsing. He was unconscious but breathing while being rushed to the hospital. The Smith died Friday morning, and an autopsy showed that the cause of death was a blunt force head injury. Now, Smith's family says that Andre loved playing football, and they can't believe that this game took him from them.
Out of all the things people can live and die from it, you know, I never thought it would be something just as simple as that.
You understand the risk, but it's a game, you know, it's a game, and kids have played this for years.
Now, on Friday night, another high school player in Tennessee had to be life-flighted to Vanderbilt University Medical Center after suffering a hit to the head during his game. Baylor Bramble had to have emergency surgery to release pressure on his brain. At last check, he was in critical condition. Now, Andre Smith is the 7th high school football-related death this year, and sadly, that is below the yearly average of 12 football-related deaths a year. And while Smith did die of a hit to the head, the leading cause of football deaths is actually sudden cardiac arrest. And a troubling statistic when it comes to high school football is that only 37% of schools employ a full-time athletic trainer, according to the National Athletic Trainers Association. More than half of schools have part-time trainers, while 3/4 have access to trainers at games. So important because in many instances, quickly diagnosing an injury that a player suffers on the field can help save a life.
Carbon sink is an ecological term. It's something that absorbs more carbon dioxide than it gives off. Soil, the ocean, and especially forests are all examples of natural carbon sinks. Combined, they're believed to absorb about half the carbon dioxide that humans produce. Could the addition of artificial carbon sinks send pollution down the drain?
Every time you get in a car, fly on a plane, or breathe, you're emitting carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which stays there. We've spent years trying to get people to pollute less. But what if that isn't the answer? What if there were a way to take carbon dioxide out of the air and put it somewhere else? Trees and plants do this all the time. They essentially inhale carbon dioxide and push out oxygen. Scientists call this a carbon sink. This isn't something you'd find in your kitchen or your bathroom. These sinks are nature's way of sucking up and storing carbon dioxide. While nature absorbs a lot of CO2, it can't keep up with the rate we're creating it. So labs around the world are building their own carbon sinks. Researchers at Arizona State University are making artificial trees from CO2-absorbing resin. A Canadian startup is designing fans that have a special absorbent liquid that captures CO2 and turns it into a salt. Currently, none of these technologies are ready for mass distribution. While each holds promise, the devices aren't large enough, efficient enough, or cheap enough to make a big enough impact.
What's probably the most famous mask in the world is getting repaired. This is ancient Egypt's King Tutankhamun, or at least it's the priceless 3,300-year-old mask that covered his mummy. An Egyptian museum employee accidentally knocked off its beard in 2014, and it was quickly and badly glued back on. The issue came to light in January. Now, archaeologists are using wooden sticks to carefully scrape off the crust of dried glue. They plan to restore and reattach the beard within a few months. Tut wasn't a particularly significant king of his day. It was the discovery of his tomb in 1922 that made him world famous. The Main Street Bridge is a famous landmark in Ohio's capital of Columbus, but it's being taken over by an infamous kind of creature. Spiders, as many as 10,000 of them, according to an entomologist. Don't hold the handrail. A wildlife expert says it's because of a recent project that added tens of thousands of plants beneath the bridge. That brought in many more insects, and that brought in many more insect predators. Not a good place to eat curds and whey. They've got 8 legs up on potential prey. Having woven a web of threadbare simplicity, spiders are creatures of deadly duplicity, stringing along their homes by the bunch, then trapping and wrapping their victims for lunch. CNN Student News brought you this rhyme. We'll see you tomorrow at the same time.